Links, you join my channel here over on Subscribestar. So quick video. I think this person is actually a dangerous sociopath. So I really hope they don't find this video. And I mean that seriously. Most of the stuff you cover on YouTube, you're not dealing with legitimately crazy, potentially dangerous people. The more I look into this person, I realize, this person is probably red flags all over the place with this person. So what happened was Limited Run Games attacks a white Christian woman for following libs of TikTok, and I mentioned those two qualifiers because Purple Tinker mentions their hatred of white people several times, and of Christians and of prayer, just kind of in general. When a video game company, some natural disaster hit, and they were praying for the people victims of the natural disaster, and this Purple Tinker got in there and attack the video. It's just as bizarre as it sounds. I mean, some people are like, they're not them. There's a lot of people who are just not playing with the full deck. The difference is now and when we were kids a long time ago is people didn't have cell phones and access to the internet. Like if you're walking around a neighborhood 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, before cell phones and social media was saturated, like you knew there were people who were just not playing with a full deck, and it's like they weren't hurting anyone. They were in their neighborhood, they're in their community. They had the computers and text messaging, but it wasn't quite the same thing. They didn't have the impact. And now like these same legitimately mentally ill people who are just not seeing the world in the same way, well, now they've got a smartphone in their hand, and they can build up a following, and they can make things happen by weaponizing kind of a high trust society, or what was a high trust society is rapidly devolving into something else. They can weaponize all that type of stuff and get themselves noticed and get dopamine, where 20 years ago they would just be in the neighborhood, kind of that person who was walking around wearing a bathrobe, just a little bit, just not all the way there. This person's some kind of computer programmer or something, so they're living a normal life, but like if you were in their apartment complex and talking to them, you would know that they were not playing with a full deck, which is fine. It's like, as long as, they're not hurting anyone, it's not a big deal. It's just that they get that since within the past 15 years, you had the combination of smartphones and social media. It's like, now all those people are online. They are able to have a disproportionate impact. So what happened? The game, one of the people at the game company was fired for following libs of TikTok and Ian Miles Chong, and for liking a Harry Potter game, I think 6 years ago. So now Limited Runs Games needs to get a little bit of friendly feedback. Now the funny thing is, the person who scrolled through 6 years of Twitter history has a behavior of, I guess you call it stalker behavior. By that I mean obsession. They find an issue and they fixate on it, even if it's someone who presumably is somewhat on their side. Like they just don't understand like a lot of the stuff they're doing. They see something and they just kind of attack whether or not it really makes sense. Like, this is not the best use of your resources, and they spend all their time on social media, sort of being like the barracks attorney, or the person who's always peering out through the window, like not looking for legitimate crime, but just looking for anything, like just anything they could make trouble over and bring some dopamine their way. So these people are the sand in the society's gears. How is the phrase? They use the letter of the law and they violate the spirit of the law, even if the laws in this case are just social norms. They create trouble where there is none because the part of their brain that says they're causing conflict is missing. It's like that Canadian person who was going to salons to get themselves waxed or something, and the stores were Asian and they were religious, so they refused. So they sued them, and they collected a few $1,000s every time they went to this mediation arbitration thing in Canada. And that was Jessica Yaniv or something. That was their business, was just getting these mediation arbitrations. Like every time they got it, it was a $2,000 fee, either from Canada or for the beauty salon that they had to pay because they discriminated against someone. So they would just go to salon to salon to salon, and every time they refused, it's like, yeah, but like you're not going to you're in an area. It's like you could just go to the one salon that will wax you. It's like you're not going there. You're going out of your way to find salons that won't. It's like, obviously this is a scam and you're making a pretty decent living doing it. And like that's what happens in a high trust society, where you can't say to people who are not on the same page with you, oh yeah, we just don't do that here. Like, of course, like you can't take advantage of, like there's like neighborhood lending libraries. You drop off books, you pick up books. or even in most libraries, because there's usually an overflow of books. Like usually, you don't even need to drop off books because there's so many overflow. Like you could just take a book every day if you wanted and keep it or give it away to elsewhere. But it's like, so what happens in some mixing of high trust, low trust societies is people will just come in there. They'll just go to those kiosks. They'll mark them off once a week, and they'll just clean them off, and then sell the books. It's like, well, that's a low trust society and a high trust society coming together. It's like that's not the spirit of law. It's like you said you could take a book. Yeah, it's a book exchange. It's like that's not the goal of you just clearing out the whole shelf and selling it to Goodwill. It's like that's not the point of a neighborhood exchange. Everyone knows that because everyone is on the same page except for these people. And this kind of stuff is only possible with people who don't feel shame over exploiting the high trust society. I think it was Jessica Yanov or Yana, something like that. Trusted Nerd on Twitter. I don't know if they're still on there. They were having pool parties for little kids. The thing is, these people do this, and then like they're very publicly. They spend all their time online, and then people start looking into them, and they discover like, oh, you're got pool parties for little kids, and you're not wanting the parents to come. I mean, it's just as bizarre that the West has devolved to where we are now, this peak Sodom and Gomorrah, but we're here now, so enjoy the decline. Anyway, so this person, Purple Tinker, sent a social media post to Limited Run Games that one of their employees had liked a tweet by Libs of TikTok and Ian Miles Chong, as if those people were Satan herself. So you liked a tweet by Libs of TikTok, and like surely there has to be an and. No, apparently not. That's good enough. Libs of TikTok triggers them because she posts the blue-haired teachers' posts from TikTok on Twitter and Telegram and Gab, where the teachers talk about how they have changing closets for kids and how they like to abuse kids and keep things secret from their parents, and that's all Libs of TikTok did, and she got a million followers for that. I think she got kicked off Twitter, the old Twitter, and then got put back. The thing is, like, whenever you bring negative attention on them, it just brings like Libs of TikTok, more subs. The other weird thing is that Purple Tinker had said some things about kids and consent. Like, I can't even show them, otherwise I'd have to like JPEG out, like manipulate the image to wipe out all the hot words. Kids and consent, some mentally deranged things, the things like James Gunn was saying. And I'm not saying that they're doing these kind of things, but it's just the societal norms is that people don't talk about kids like this unless they're just deranged, which these people are. To say this person is not playing with the full deck doesn't quite cover it. It's not that they're crazy people out there. There always were people at the end of the spectrum. It's that the sane people are allowing themselves to be influenced by the crazy people. The manager at Limited Run Games was looking for a reason to virtue signal, and he thought that this was the perfect opportunity. I suspect that he thought that the result was going to be different, that there was going to be a ton of dopamine from all the echo chamber confirmation bias, and that did not happen. So this article is written by a left-wing soy boy, game guy covers the games, and it's written to frame it in the most positive light for Limited Run Games as possible. But even in his article, he just says what I says. It's like, so they like the Harry Potter tweet, and they like Libs of TikTok, and they're trying to frame it as like, oh, well, the J.K. Rowling was istophobic, and like nowhere in this article do you include the link to where J.K. Rowling is istophobic, because she wasn't. I think she says something like men are not women. It's like, oh, well, that's, nowadays that's istophobic. It's like, no, to most people that, like, even the word istophobic, these terms you use, like, they're not real terms. They're just manipulation terms to control people through fear. But, so the most you could say about this was istophobic tweets were on her timeline, as well as a number of right-wing. Keep in mind, they consider Libs of TikTok like Steven Crowder, Tim Pool, and Ian Miles Chung as right-wing accounts. Like, those in your world, that's what the right-wing. So like you're explaining, like, oh, you went after this chick because she said she was excited to play the upcoming Hogwarts Legacy, a game that is surrounded in controversy. It's not. Owing to the istophobic views of J.K. Rowling. That's insane. And right-wing accounts, Ben Shapiro, Libs of TikTok, and others. So that's the most you can say about this person. That's the reason they got fired. Like, most reasonable people are going to look at this and go like, you're not going to have a... So you want to have a chilling effect on free speech. Exactly. Well, free speech from anyone who's a moderate or right of center. That's the goal. you're not going to have you can't have a society like this. The society has to have greased gears running. You can't have people who are willing to stop and throw a fit over every single little thing. Otherwise, they need to go into their own society away from other people. And like I said, before cell phones and social media was ubiquitous, they were. I mean, they just didn't have access to society. People just, oh, they're the computer programmer, they're living with their partner, and like they don't have access to tools that can disrupt society because there weren't, text-based internet wasn't quite the same thing. But now it's all different, where you can be part of this protected category and get on social media, build up a huge following, and have real world impact where you got somebody fired. And it's like, is it their fault? No, they're mentally ill. It's the games company's fault for they're the ones who fired them. Anyway, damn dogs. Anyway, so they didn't get the dopamine they thought they're going to get. They got attacked by our side, the usual suspects, which is expected, but they didn't get the support from the SJW community that they thought they would get. I only saw a few people who were supporting them. Maybe because the more people look into purple tinker and limited run games, the worse it gets. They very openly hate European people, and they hate prayer and Christians. Some video game companies said to pray for the victims of a natural disaster, and Purple got triggered over the concept of people praying for each other, or that the video game would retweet something talking about prayer, because they very much hate white people and hate Christians. The other twisted thing is that they took this cartoon and comic book where friendship is magic about horses. I don't know, running around. I read the comic book years ago. I wrote to do something about it to see what all the fuss was about. It was just a cute, silly comic book. Like if you told me, oh no, people are going to take this. It's like a Smurfs type of comic for kids, and you go, oh, they're going to take this thing and they're going to build like cons around it. It's like, oh, okay, for kids, right? And it's like Smurfs and these little My Little Ponies, and yeah, I could see like under 12 crowd would be. It's like it was the comic book I read was well written as well as anything. It's like just a nothing kind of cartoon. No. Adults are going to take this where friendship is magic, and they're going to turn it into an adult themed degenerate sex party. NSFW or something. And people are like, "Oh, that's kind of weird because it's a kid show, right?" Like but these people aren't wired right. They don't understand that it's not appropriate to take something for kids and mix adult themes into it, because a lot of these are mentally ill people, but mostly they're rootless people, kind of without structure. They're the ultimate communist found family theory, where like this cultural Marxism, where they try to do this to people as much as possible to remove them from the structure of a family and put them out there so they reject their own family by just being as far out, as weird as possible, instead of staying tribal. This is like the globalist cultural Marxist, Saul Alinsky, Frankfurt School. This is the stuff they do. A lot of these people, they very deeply need a family, a church, and a tribal community, but they don't have that external structure to constrain their behavior. Their modality is that that's not the word I was looking for. If it's legal, then they're fine with it. It's a Sodom society where there is no spirit of the law. There's no external shaming behavior to constrain your behavior. And people hear shaming behavior and they automatically get triggered by that. It's like, no, it's stuff like not saying inappropriate things to kids, or not swearing in front of, at the wrong moment, in front of ladies and kids. It's like kind of old fashioned behavior, but it's like, it's not that old fashioned. It's just little things like not telling inappropriate jokes and in mixed company. It's like, it sounds so old fashioned to say that, but it's like it's just a thing that most people learn through human in person reading people's facial expressions. Where I'm so glad, because I probably would have been a kind of a weirdo myself if I didn't have a lot of that human experience training me into facial expressions. I'm not autistic or anything, but like I could see how you get isolated away from the human body language and you get a little bit weird. And like there's a lot of these people who don't have that IRL stuff, and they're online, they're terminally online, and they don't know what they're like. So you got this lady fired. That's right, she was transphobic. Okay, but you got her fired because she liked the Harry Potter cartoon video game. Yeah, that's right, she was bigoted and instaphobic. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what is going to happen to limited run games. I'm sure in the long run they're going to be fine. They take a little bit of a dip because people are going to look at them. But the thing is, it's important to cover these kind of articles. Even if you cover them, like you come back to them every couple weeks, every couple months. just to see if they have because here's the thing, the left wing does this kind of stuff all the time where they use social media pressure to affect change. The right wing doesn't, or at least they didn't used to, and that has to change. You have to play by the rules of the game, to keep going after these people, to speak truth to power, to seek peaceful legal redress of grievances, whatever, to let them know that you can't support this kind of behavior where these people can just get people fired left and right for the most innocuous of tweets. Just saying, so the only opinions that are allowed to be expressed online are far left wing opinions, where like her or their, whatever this purple tinker's name is, they can talk about kids and consent, and like nothing happens to them. They're computer programmers. It's like, so what? I mean, what happened with somebody would find out where you work and bring all this to your employer's attention? It's like, oh, that would be istophobic, and maybe the 4chan will get on that. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, see you guys on the next episode.